Hello YouTube and welcome back to my channel, The Journey Back to Road. Today we're going to get into a general reading, picking up on the Divine Masculine's energy right now, where he is on his spiritual journey and how he's being affected by the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and the Taurus full moon. I can say, before we even begin, the Divine Masculine is being upgraded. He's going through or starting the ascension process right now. And that's what's being brought about by this retrograde. He is in a state of introspection and reflection. He's gotten the Hermit and the Hanged Man so many times in previous readings around since the Mercury retrograde really started, because I do random readings just to see where he is throughout the week. And the Hermit and the Hanged Man have come up a lot, as well as the Wheel of Fortune and the Judgment card. And so what is going on now is he is going through a sort of an awakening. Keep in mind that this reading is general, so even if you don't see this playing out physically, it may be something that's going on energetically. Excuse me. And also keep in mind that we do have both the feminine and masculine energies present within ourselves. And so the main goal is to bring those things in, those energies into harmony and balance so that they can work together in order to create this union within yourself. Okay, and when we obtain union within ourselves, it reflects outwardly. We no longer have that dualistic outlook on things. We're no longer in the illusion of separation, and thus we're able to easily create union with our divine counterparts once our divine counterparts come into that union within themselves. And I believe that process is beginning for the Divine Masculine now. It has been a trying journey, and it does happen in stages. These things happen in stages. The Divine Masculine and Feminine are awakening at different times because the Divine Masculine had to be used as Divine Feminine's catalyst while Divine Masculine was acting out his karma still. If Divine Masculine was always in a high vibrational state and acting in a high vibrational manner, the Divine Masculine wouldn't have been or wouldn't have served as this catalyst for the Divine Feminine. As we all know, the partner or counterpart who carries the Divine Feminine energy usually ascends before the counterpart carrying the masculine energy. And it's set up that way by the divine. If you look at the Lover's card in the traditional tarot deck, you'll notice that the woman is looking to the divine, and then the masculine in that photo is looking to the feminine, and it creates like a triangle, which is symbolic of that balancing of the yin and yang to create the physical, or essentially manifest in the physical realm. Okay, because when we're acting out imbalanced in an imbalanced way, we aren't really creating, we're destroying in a sense. But yeah, just check that photo out. So the feminine looking to the divine here, and the divine feminine being woken up on this journey, suffering great pain or hurt or just confusion in general since embarking on this journey with her divine counterpart. She turns to the divine for guidance, and the masculine at some point turns back to the feminine for that guidance that the feminine has received from above. And so the masculine being associated with the lower chakras, they're very physical, and the feminine energy being associated with the upper chakras is more spiritual and dealing with the unseen things that govern us, emotions and feelings and intuition and the stars and things like that. That's feminine energy. And so we want to come into harmony with both of those things. We want all of our chakras to be aligned so that what we're receiving from above, we can create in the physical realm. And I was going to say vice versa, but you can't really vice versa that, because nothing that we experience, well, in the physical realm, we can experience certain things that help our soul's growth, okay? But if you don't have that awareness, if your heart chakra is blocked, you're going to continue acting out the same cycles over and over and over again because you're unable to learn those lessons because you're blocked. Your upper chakras are blocked. Your feminine energy is off balance. Or you're just having karma that you have to work through. Some karma we have to work through. When we begin repeating the same cycles over and over again, that's by choice, okay? That's us using our free will, because we're unable to learn that lesson. We're unable to connect the dots. So pretty much what the Divine Masculine is experiencing right now is basically a replay of his life up until this point and how it's affected him up until this point as it pertains to relationships, career, spirituality, his beliefs, all of that, the structure that makes him him. And the Hierophant did come out at some point during this when I was shuffling the cards, but at the bottom of the deck. It was at the bottom of the deck. And so I did connect with that card momentarily as I'm saying this. Those structures that he's identified with in the past. He's doing an inner search or a decleaning, a cleansing of his own soul and mind of things that don't belong to him, things that he's picked up along the way from other people, other experiences that he's had in his life that do not necessarily serve him and do not necessarily align with his heart's true intent or desire. Most of the masculines being in that masculine energy have acted out in their lower chakras for most of their lives. Not really connecting with the higher chakras, I guess you can say. But they've always had the ability to do that. They're a divine masculine for a reason. This divine masculine or this collective of divine masculines, they never really had the environment where they could experiment with their feminine energies. In fact, most of them have gone through their lives where they were shunned for certain attributes and characteristics that they may have had. They may have been artistic, they may have been shunned for being artistic or expressing themselves anyway, creatively or emotionally. And so they grew up and adopted the belief that anything of the emotional or spiritual realm, I'll say, is feminine and thus weak. Okay, most of the planet for a while has been operating in the hyper masculine energy, even women. Okay, I know that I was very hyper masculine without even knowing it prior to meeting my twin, and my twin mirrored that back to me, thus starting or kickstarting the journey of self-discovery for me. Anyways, being in that masculine energy, perceiving emotions as weak, either considering yourself not creative or being creatively blocked, and or being made fun of for being an artsy type of person. So that's what a lot of the divine masculines experienced growing up, knowing that they were different, feeling like they were different. And then a lot of them assumed positions or career fields that made them feel or look normal. Okay. They took on friendships and relationships that made them feel like they were normal, even though deep down they were not being satisfied on a soul level. They were being satisfied superficially, if you will, because now they're being accepted. They're getting the acceptance that they've always wanted, but it's superficial acceptance because they're being accepted for something they're portraying, not for something that they actually are. You know what I mean? And so now the divine masculine is in that state of self-reflection and reflecting on these experiences and what they've taught him on the low vibration, and then what he can turn them into in the high vibration, or what he can transmute that negative energy into. This is probably happening on a soul level for the divine masculine. I'm not sure he's even consciously aware that this is happening. For the divine feminine, I will say that a lot of the past experiences that I've had have come up, even with my relationship with my dad. Okay. And while I can't make sense of everything consciously, I know that things are happening on a soul level when these experiences come up. Because each time I think about them, it's gone in stages. I have a different reaction or a different emotion associated with it, to the point where I've become completely neutral. And so now I'm able to oversee the situation. I'm not placing myself inside of it. So when you're inside of it, you can't see the solution because you're dead smack in the middle of everything. And you're attaching this emotion and you're attaching that emotion, and you're not really learning the lesson because you're taking or perceiving everything so personally. And so at a certain point, after having replayed these instances at various points throughout your life, or these experiences, various points in your life, you begin to understand or learn a deeper level or a deeper lesson of those same experiences, to the point where you begin to transmute all of the negative energy. And now you're an overseer and you take the deeper soul lessons from those experiences, if you get what I'm saying. And so that is the energy I get for the divine masculine, for how this retrograde is affecting him. Now, the overall energy, I pulled cards for the overall energy for how the retrograde and the full moon in Taurus is affecting the divine masculine. For the tarot, we got the Three of Cups in reverse. And this is always my friendship card. Friendship, celebration, going out, enjoying yourself, and stuff like that. In the reverse, I feel like divine masculine is becoming aware of his indulgences and how he's kind of used friendships and partying and socializing in general to distract himself from himself. Like I said, being bullied or not being accepted for who you are at the soul level, you kind of grow up to mask that or try to hide it in some ways. And then you feel drawn towards people who are more of the in crowd, who are more socially accepted, the popular crowd. And that gives you a false sense of acceptance or love. Being that he's being awakened now to his own self, we have the Judgment card coming out here. And what this is saying is divine masculine internalizing all of the judgment that he's received throughout his life, whether this is mother figures, father figures, siblings, peers from school, and stuff like that. He internalized a lot of that. And even outside of internalizing that, we do judge ourselves very harshly at times, especially if you're on the spiritual path prior to being awakened. You're probably someone who critically judged yourself. And for the divine masculine, he projected that outwardly. So the things that he saw in the divine feminine were things that he was judged for growing up in a negative way. And so in order to make himself feel better or shun or pretend that they don't exist within himself, he kind of, I don't want to say belittle. In some cases, maybe the divine masculine did belittle the divine feminine. For some of you, you did experience belittlement, but also just a sense of non-acceptance almost. But it was a deep-seated judgment that the divine masculine had against himself and the things that he experienced growing up. There was also this sense of the divine masculine judging other people for their life experiences in comparison to his, as if everyone is supposed to have, like, there's a standard for living or a standard for how you're supposed to grow up. Each parent is supposed to be like this. Your parents are supposed to be like that. The divine masculine had that type of perception of the world prior to embarking on this journey. And so for a lot of them, that is the way they chose their friends. People that they could relate to on the 3D, on the surface level. Oh, you grew up this way. your parents had X amount of money, or you went to this school, things like that. You have this amount of money, like things on the surface level is how he judged or made friends or connections. And essentially anyone who didn't align with that 3D perception he had of the world, he shunned or judged in some way. And so this being the lesson that he's learning right now, the divine masculine, and I mentioned this in the reading that I just posted, he's realizing or seeing the interconnectedness of things, how everyone's experiences shape their own destiny, or everyone's going to have their own mission or purpose for being in the world, and how they grew up and the things that they experienced shape them into the person that they are or who they will become in the future. Okay, and judging them or having these ill feelings towards someone because their path doesn't appear to be up to your standard or how you were raised or your belief in the way things should be, having that perception kind of places you in a box, and it hinders you from making meaningful connections because you're looking for surface level things to connect with. um and then that also being him shunning the deeper aspect within himself because maybe he was shunned for that as a child. But divine masculine, we have the weaver of dreams showing up here. Divine masculine's becoming aware of how his thoughts, particularly his judgments of other people, have contributed to shaping the current reality that he's experiencing right now, is one message. But with the spin the silken thread divine showing up as well here, divine masculine is taking a trip down memory lane and learning lessons from his past experiences. These experiences can go back lifetimes or even just to the childhood. Consciously he's thinking of these things, but as he's thinking of them, like I said, there's something going on at the soul level that's helping him to sift through things in his memory bank or his subconscious mind that shouldn't be there, that were limiting him and limiting his perception of things and people. And so even with doing that, he's having these aha moments. Like, if I hadn't gone through that, which I perceive to be really negative, then I wouldn't have this perception on this, or I wouldn't have had this amount of growth. I wouldn't have matured as much as I have now if I hadn't experienced that. So he's realizing the lessons that certain experiences have afforded him, rather than casting them away or judging them as bad or good. He's having this realization that everything is connected. And he's also having the realization that what he's been aligning to subconsciously, the things that aren't serving him, has created this reality that he's experiencing right now that he hasn't been too happy or content with. And for a lot of the divine masculines, they may be even losing friends or cutting ties with people who are associated with that old timeline, that old way of being that he's trying to shed. Okay, those people who encourage the the shallow perception that he had of the world. So he's no longer fitting in with the people he used to. The people that he attracted when he was in that very 3D energy, he's no longer resonating with right now. And with the judgment card coming out here, he's probably not even judging these people. In the past, he probably would have judged them in some way, um, judged them harshly or negatively in some way. He's realizing that certain people just aren't aligned with where he's going now or who he's evolving into. And so I don't get any hard feelings here for the divine masculine. For some of them, they may be harshly cutting ties with people, or people cutting ties with them because they just don't resonate anymore, or they're seeing certain things now and it's just hard to fake it anymore, because now your soul is being awakened. Those parts that you were trying to shun or hide and suppressed are being brought back to the surface, and now you can see them more clearly with this new or open perception that's beginning to happen for you with the ascension process. At the bottom of the deck for the animal oracle, we do have the lizard, which is daydreaming. And I mentioned in the last reading that the divine masculine and feminine have both been in this Piscean energy, which is also the hanged man energy, for some time. It's almost like being submerged in the waters, is how I describe it. And so it's very hazy. It's sometimes you feel like you're dreaming or everything is an illusion, but even in that, subconsciously or on a soul level, we're learning deeper things about our true nature. Excuse me. Um, I did pull cards for the past energy that is coming into play for the full moon and the retrograde. And we got the adversity card as the lesson that he learned in the past. And then we also have gentle aggression here, um, with the towel. And for the oracle, we got the Ace of Cups, the Eight of Cups, and the Wheel of Fortune. And so what I get from this is definitely, I feel like this is related to the breakup with the divine feminine, but it also, like I said, ties into childhood stuff as well. But what I'm getting here, is we all know that most of the time when things get too much for the divine masculine, they run. In my case, it was always if there was a disagreement or something, the divine masculine would always resort to, maybe we're not a match, or he would just draw back his energy and not reply to certain things. And it's because they didn't like conflict. They didn't like to feel uncomfortable. They didn't like that mirror being reflected back to them. They associated themselves with people who were easy to get along with because they were on the 3D level with the divine masculine. They resonated with surface level things. And when he got with the divine feminine, she was very deep and in tune with her emotions and feelings. And at times, this was too much for the divine masculine. And so those disagreements, he didn't see the lessons in those, or what she was trying to teach him or help him to see in certain situations. This card says adversity. I accept that challenges are the best way to learn. Divine masculine seeing that now, reflecting on these things. A lot of the things that the divine feminine was telling the divine masculine, I feel like have come to fruition, or he's beginning to see or realize right now. And also, what this ties into is how harshly the divine masculine was judging himself. He was also projecting that onto the divine feminine. And so it created this friction unnecessarily between the two. I mean, everything is going to have its reason. But because the divine masculine was judging himself so harshly, and trying to suppress that part of himself that the divine feminine was just shining so much light on, it caused a lot of friction between the two. They were unable to come together because the divine masculine was subconsciously putting up those blocks and trying to block this out, especially when she was bringing things to light that he did not want to confront. And with the towel here, he's realizing that he can't force anyone to perceive life or the world the same way he does. You know what I mean? He's realizing that he did do that in most cases, and that that's not the way that, he's not going to gain harmony or balance or peace in his life if he navigates his world that way, if he relates to people in that way. And so now he's learning to get his point across without coming across way too harsh or too imposing. And he's also learning to go with the flow rather than fighting the current. And he's also realizing how much he has learned through the adversity that he's faced in the connection with his divine feminine. He's reflecting on how far he's come and how much he's grown since connecting with her. And it's like he knows that had they not had these falling outs, these disagreements, he wouldn't have come to the realizations that he's come to now. And so at a certain level, he's having a lot of gratitude for the experience. With the Eight of Cups and the Ace of Cups here, I do feel like this was the divine masculine walking away from this connection in the past because the fighting was too much for him to bear. It was too much for him to deal with. The Wheel of Fortune showing up here, I get like a stubborn energy, this person not wanting to budge. Again, seeing the world through their own lenses and unable to relate to other people or allow other people to experience life as the divine wanted that person to perceive things or experience certain things. Um yeah, I feel like there was a new start in the past, and it seemed promising to the divine masculine. He probably felt like this was it and things were finally going to come together, and then there was this friction or inability to come together, and it was things on the subconscious level that both the divine feminine and feminine hadn't worked through yet. And he's realizing that walking away isn't always the best solution to everything, especially to this connection. Because he's realizing that there were certain things that he could have learned by staying. But those lessons are going to be learned regardless if you're on the spiritual path. Sometimes we take detours and it takes longer, but he's realizing that the reason why the connection wasn't working out was not solely the divine feminine or solely the fact that they weren't getting along. It was the emotional baggage that he was carrying and that she was carrying, and that everything that happened was sort of fated. He's realizing that. And with the full moon out here, I'm relating to this walking away was due to fears, subconscious fears, unresolved things in the subconscious mind, emotional baggage that we were carrying around. But he's realizing that it was all by design, that it was all fated with the Wheel of Fortune here. And with this playing out in the physical, he's learning how to communicate in a less harshful way, in a less judgmental way. And he's learning that not all arguments or disagreements are negative, because the divine feminine, when she communicated with him, was never coming from a low vibrational place. It was coming from a place of genuine love, and he's realizing that now. For the present moment, we have Weave the Future Golden, Grief, and Illusion for the oracles. And automatically, I mean, what the divine masculine is experiencing right now is he feels like he has lost this connection. He's lost this dream that he had of a connection with the divine feminine. I feel like this, for a lot of them, could be because of financial reasons. Also, there could be another party in the situation for the divine feminine. Maybe she's seeing someone else. And so he feels like he has to compete for a place back into her life. And because he's having these financial difficulties, he may not win that place back. Okay. So for the grief card coming out with the illusion and weave the future golden, dragonfly is illusion. So the divine masculine is definitely in his mind about things, and we got that energy with the last reading that he's very in his mind about this connection, and he's perceiving the divine feminine as having lost interest or having moved on. And so he's feeling like or seeing or perceiving the situation as having lost it. He is feeling like the divine feminine may not return or that the connection may not work out. Possibly because she's with someone else. For some of you that may apply, or he's just perceiving you that way. But he's definitely learning a greater appreciation for the connection in general. I understand that losing something is an opportunity to appreciate it. So he's gaining this appreciation for the connection that he has with the divine feminine. He's realizing that what he perceived of her in the past was really an illusion. It was him acting out in fear and him running from himself, the subconscious part of himself, that the feminine essence of himself, emotions and feelings and intuition and spirituality. He was trying to suppress that, and he was living in an illusion. He realizes now that back then he was in the illusion, and now he's waking up. And because of that, he now appreciates the connection a lot more than he did previously because he's realizing it for what it is. With Weave the Future Golden, I mean, again, this is him realizing how his thoughts or the beliefs that he's adopted from the past have played out in his current reality and how they've affected the way that his relationships have turned out, how his life has turned out, how his career has turned out. Realizing those toxic traits, beliefs, ideas, relationships, friendships, realizing how much they have truly affected him. And so, yeah, this is definitely a time of reflection for the divine masculine. He's gaining a new perspective on the connection, on life in general, as a result of this connection and losing it. Losing this connection has sent him on to the spiritual awakening part of this journey. Just like when the divine feminine perceived the divine masculine having moved on, or she was going through those insecurities in the dark night of the soul, that propelled her onto the spiritual path. Right now, that's happening for the divine masculine, for this collective. And for the divine feminine, how you may see this with the divine masculine energy within yourself is learning how to integrate that. Realizing that you don't have to be one way or the other, and learning that you can balance these two energies and use the feminine energy to create things in the physical realm. For the future energy, we have the crow, which is law, and this is definitely karma here. This reduces to a 10. So definitely completions going on here for the divine masculine. Tai Chi rising, this is all about the ascension, rising and vibration. Things are being stripped away from the divine masculine that are no longer in alignment with him as he's raising in frequency. Relationships. I am attracted to those people who serve my highest good or my higher good. And so I feel like for a lot of you guys, if you are experiencing a karmic This is literally the ending of that karmic relationship. Karmic friendships, karmic partners, karmic family members. This is an end to those relationships. This divine masculine is increasing in their frequency and their vibration, and they're seething or sifting through things that don't serve them anymore. They're realizing things for what they are. And they're realizing what led them into the situations that they're experiencing right now in the first place. Having that higher perspective. And karmic relationships in general, a lot of people would ask or place too much emphasis on the karmic relationship in general. But you can remove a person from a karmic relationship and they'll go and manifest or attract another karmic relationship. And that's because they haven't learned the karmic lesson that they were meant to learn, okay? Or they're still vibrating in karmic energy, low vibrational energy. And so they're aligning to that reality. So karma or karmic is literally an energy that a person is aligning to. Before the divine feminine was awakened, she resonated on a karmic level as well. I can attest to that. I was very low vibrational prior to meeting and connecting with my divine masculine. I was someone who was extremely controlling and jealous, and you could definitely look at me as a karmic partner for my ex, for instance. I was definitely a karmic partner for my ex. And so don't get confused with that, with the term karmic partner, because they can have multiple karmic partners. It's not tied to one specific person, and it's not this one specific person you're trying to rid from your divine masculine's life so that he can come back. No, it's all about the evolution of consciousness and the raising of our vibrations and frequencies that takes us out of these karmic energies so that we can perceive things on a higher level, and we no longer align to things of the lower nature because we're seeing them for what they are. That is what karma is, and that is what plays out for the divine masculine for most of us divine feminines witnessing. For the future energy, there is going to be an end to this karmic energy as the divine masculine is awakening and reflecting on his past circumstances and his mistakes and the experiences he's had and the things that no longer serve him. As he's becoming aware of these things and doing that introspection, doing that shadow work, he's elevating or increasing his frequency or his vibration, and it's no longer in resonance with things of the lower vibration. The divine is putting an end to these things. The divine masculine has learned his lesson in these situations from that deep introspection that he's going through. He's no longer running from these things. He's taking the time out to face them. He's taking the time out to understand them. And this is what's helping him to increase his frequency and his level of perception so that he can end the karmic contracts he has with certain places, people, things, ideas. We have the King of Cups with the Page of Cups and the Ten of Coins. This is definitely the divine masculine healing his inner child. Anything that he experienced in his household growing up that made him feel undeserving of genuine love, or made him feel weak for having this artistic side or having emotions or being a sensitive person, because most divine masculines are very sensitive under the hard exterior that they have. There's a child under there wanting to be acknowledged because he shut that childlike element out of himself for so long. I also, what I get from this is even like for some of you guys, I'm channeling a proposal, a marriage proposal from this divine masculine. An offer of stability and commitment here. He's wanting to ground this love. And he's made a choice on this connection. Divine Feminine, whether you see that or you realize that or not, Divine Masculine has made a choice and has committed to manifesting something stable and committed with you. He's just having to mature, and I see this happening. This is future energy needing to mature and make sense of the things that he's experiencing right now. And there's more water. Like this is water. He's been submerged in the water, okay? And so he's needing to finish processing and understanding what it is that he's been experiencing and the things that have been revealed to him through his intuition even. He's just needing to process things in order to mature at this point, because he's doing the shadow work now, or he's near completion and he's beginning the ascension process. All right. So that has been the reading for the Divine Masculine's energy for the moon and the retrograde and how that's affecting him. I'm definitely gonna do a reading for the Divine Feminine just to take a look to see where she is. That will probably happen tomorrow or maybe even later. Not sure yet. I hope you guys have found something in this reading that resonates with you, that you can use and help you on your spiritual journey and your twin flame journey. And thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, hope you thumbs up, comment, subscribe, like, whatever you feel called to do. And check me out on the next reading. Bye-bye.